Hello and welcome to the first Saryn test. So the rework is out, and I bought this very nice skin, and it's very, very nice and all that stuff. And I've been testing some things. This is my first build that I've been testing, and I can't say that I'm happy with it. I'm going to be testing some other builds, of course, but just from like an intuitive, like how do I mod this, just based on modding other things. It seems like this would work better than it does. So let's just do this. So, okay. You probably saw my Why Would You Use, which probably came out yesterday, because this video will probably come out today. So, I'm just gonna start off this is what I test for when I'm using weapons and a Warframe. I add 20 levels. That doesn't seem like that's that crazy. Having enemies that are level 70 doesn't seem that fucked up at all. Level 70 enemies should be, they're normal enemies, basically. Whenever you have played the game for a long time. They basically are like the enemies that you'll see a lot of the time. Or that you would want to be fighting. That is your preferred fighting parameters, is these enemies are level 70. And these guys are on the tougher end of level 70. But I think this might exemplify one of the things that's kind of fucking wrong with the game. Just as a whole, if you're not playing one of the high meta frames or using corrosive projection. So let's just simulate, and I'm gonna go over kind of what the intended play is of Saryn, I think, and how I've been using her based on the changes that they made. So, spawn these guys in. So Contagion now, or your 3, now buffs your sword. Whenever you hit enemies with this, your 1 pops, and that seems fine. So I'm going to 1 on him, and then just kind of slide past. I know enemies were close enough. Range is a really big problem here, because if you get more range, you lose damage. But generally, you can spread it pretty easily. Okay, so now I have all my procs on those guys. I got one. I got one, I think. Oh no, they're still alive. Yeah, let's get you. Yeah, good job. Awesome. Okay. See, you can probably immediately see the problem with this. And then there are quite a few. I'm just gonna heal up because regenerative molt is still the best. And I'm gonna get rid of this. Also, that's the Dragon Nikana doing that. That work is just the Dragon Nikana. That wasn't even buffed. And most of the work you're seeing here is actually the Dragon Nikana, because all of Saryn's powers are not good now. Like, there's no reason for me to be this frame. I have 0, like, they're boom, boom. And I get, like, a tiny damage buff, but, like, here are the things that this frame is asking me to do, and what this frame asks of me to get the results that I'm getting. It asks me to be in melee. Okay. There are a couple of frames that ask you to be in melee. Valkyrie. Okay. Excalibur. Okay. But when you get into that melee range, they perform at an insanely high level of damage. Because when you ask me to get close to an enemy, that means that whenever I close that distance and meet your want of me, I need to get a result. And the result needs to be immediate. And we're gonna go look at the build that I've been using after I've not killed these enemies, because they don't die within a timely manner. Using all 4 of my abilities, you 1, 3, pop the spores to hit a bunch of guys, and then hit 4. And then nothing fucking happens to these enemies, which I'll show again now. So just to be sure, I've got this on. This is on for sure. Let's do 1. Then we'll go in on him. Boom. It spread over to those enemies over there. I hit 4. And I didn't even kill the basic enemies. Even these basic little shit piss enemies are not fucking dead. I get that they're level 70, But this is not how a combination, like 3 powers in combination that ask me to put myself in the dangerous position of getting close to an enemy, and they're not fucking ruined. Like, you're asking, and beyond that, whenever you use Miasma, you stop and you're forced into this animation. It's not a thing you can just be like, boom, 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 I cast 3 Miasma, super good, oh, look at this combination. Because if you could do that and stack your stacks, as it were, like stack Miasma on someone really fast, it would use a lot of energy, but maybe you'd actually be able to have it function. And that would still be bad, because you'd be using so much fucking energy to do nothing. And it's really frustrating. So basically, like, here, let's just do this Corpus. Him, I'll do my 3, hit you to get the other proc, and 4. Man, it's like that took a literal hour to kill one guy. So let's just go clear this, because like this is totally doable, but it's not because of Saryn that this is like doable. This is doable just because like my Dragon Nikana is really super like crazy strong, and like just in general I can deal with these powers that are not performing, because the power that is performing, Regenerative Molt, is really fucking good. But guess what? This power is not any fucking different. They did the same, like, I can put my 1 on it now. Cool. That's super cool. Super cool, I can put my 1 on it now. Hooray, pop the spores. This is not, like, hardly any different. They added a tiny amount of functionality, and then this is the same. So this is the same great power that we had, surrounded by 3 powers that now, like, don't work great. So let's go look at my build to see the choices that I made in building this first. Alright. Let's get right back down here. Okay. So, these are the choices that I made. I have almost double duration, which is pretty good. Almost double duration. In terms of that, that means that all of my powers are totaling out at double the regular damage they would do. And that's just great. That's what I want. I want, like, that's a real good power increase. It means it'll take me a little bit longer to kill enemies, but they should die. And that's just fine. Max power efficiency, so I can cast them all the fucking time with no worries. And then I have a reasonable amount of range, because I thought that it would be spreading between these enemies quite quickly, because I would be popping these spores all the time. And that actually works. It does spread between enemies fairly quickly. Power strength at 100%. I just kept it there, and that seemed reasonable because I wanted to add some more defensive properties to my frame. So in terms of defense, I'm using Regenerative Molt, which is a very good mod, and this was always great, and it has stayed that way. Vitality. She has the most health in the game, so Vitality is an obvious choice combined with Regenerative Molt. And then Rage for a bunch of energy. All of those things seem to make tons of sense to me. That seems like the 3 defensive mods that you'd absolutely want to have in like all like reasonable style, and these values seem okay. But let's go look at what her powers are actually offering me without mods. These are the baselines of them all being at rank 3. So you get like a bonus damage block. That doesn't matter. This damage block thing, this doesn't matter at all. This is so it's whatever. It's literally whatever. You don't block enough in melee as it is. Blocking is not high enough damage reduction normally that anyone would even give a fucking rat's ass against any significantly high level enemy. You're not sitting at the end of a hallway and blocking shots. That's never going to happen because it's just not useful. So that damage block is completely useless. This initial damage multiplier, 1.3, it's actually not terrible. Doing some more damage if Toxic Lash is enabling these other things with your power is actually not bad. Because whenever you have this Toxic Lash procced, Miasma does double damage, or 100% more damage, and that's fine. This doesn't even seem that terrible if the damage output that you're getting at the end of this is significant. But let's go up to spores. So damage per second is 20, and that's actually per spore. And that's okay. So that's 3 spores. Duration normally is 12. That's a reasonable amount of damage on your one, because you're going to be spreading this to a bunch of enemies. And you can cast it at an incredibly long range. Spread range, not bad. Spread spores, same as the initial. Ends up being totally fine. I'd say that's totally okay. That's fine. Molt, not changed much, is just fine. The problem we have is fucking miasma. This shit is fucking unacceptable. What the fuck? Okay. So to build this right, you need a bunch of duration, which implies that you're going to be using narrow-minded. So you have minus 50% range. I kind of even that out to give myself 100 and then just more duration. But the baseline of this sucks. And you can use it at low level just because, like, low level enemies don't have enough defenses to survive much of anything if it's an alt. But even so, at low levels, heavy units are dying really, really slowly. So this, just without any of this other stuff you're supposed to do attached to it, does 1,050 damage? 900, yeah, 1,050 damage. And that's over time. A normal alt does that, like, almost instantly. So that's great. This has a duration that it needs to, and it's granted it's 3 seconds to do this damage, and it's a light stun. So I guess it evens itself out to be fine. And you need more duration, then you'll get more damage just by proxy of that, and that should be fine. Let's see the stats that I get with these mods. More duration, which means this is doing raw more damage. This lasts longer, that's fine. And this lasts way longer, and that's fine. And this lasts about double the time. So, and my range is like very slightly less, but I can cast this shit all the time. But here's the problem, is the way that these work together. This is okay, and Toxic is okay, and Spores are okay. But when you're asked to combine them, you're supposed to get more out of them. You don't get like a quantitative more. Whenever you have Toxic Lash and Spores procced on Miasma, you get 3 times the damage. That's only like 6,000 fucking damage. Which is nothing. Which is basically nothing. Which is basically 0 damage against anything of significantly high level. And this is an endgame build that I'm going for here. And on top of that, because I'm being asked to get within this range, this very close range that you need to hit an enemy with a melee weapon, you have to hit them with a melee weapon. And I suppose you could do it with a glaive, but that's one melee weapon. And if you're telling me that Saryn now only has one melee weapon that you kind of have to use on her, that's fucking shitty and unacceptable. That's awful. That's garbage. If I were to take away Vitality, Rage, and Regenerative Molt, I lose so much. But let's do it anyway. Let's see what kind of shit I can get away with. Let's take all these out. So I just lost a little under 600 health. And that's fine, I guess. And let's just here, let's go for like super high damage. Super high. Crazy high damage. Let's do that, and then max this out. Max this out. Intensify. And then what's the, I'll just, oh, it's transients right there. Oh, I don't have enough room for that. That's unfortunate. Is there a place where I could put those? So where's my power duration? So that's actually this probably actually does nothing basically now, which is just great, honestly. Let's go for more duration. What do I have for more duration here? Jesus. But I need stretch. If I don't, stretch is a required mod in this build now because it's pertinent to have this. 157%. Plus 60%. I lost 10%. Duration. Let's organize this a little more. This is my duration. This is my less duration. You know what? Let's do this the intended way. Okay, wow. Well, actually, you know what? Yeah, let's do this the intended way. You know, I just realized that we should just do this the intended way. I'm sure it'll be fine if we do it the way that it's clearly intended, right? Where is that at? There's Constitution. Boop. Okay. Tons of duration. Efficiency at 100%. Just normal. Normal's fine, sure. And then at this point, transient's probably good. All right. Let's see here. What else are we gonna shove in here? Let's do a flow because I'm gonna need it. Anything else? You know what? You know what? This is fine. I'm sure this is A-okay. I'm gonna reorganize. I don't know why I'm reorganizing. Anyway, is there anything I can make more efficient in this build? No? Okay, I didn't think so. Okay. And let's put on something to keep me a little alive. Okay. So, now I've changed the build. This is at 100. This is just normal efficiency. My powers cost what they normally would. I've got more power because I'm gonna need it. I'm over double duration, and I'm almost at double strength. So let's see what these abilities look like. Okay, 7 seconds at 600. Okay, my damage multiplier is at 1.5. Hooray! With Toxic Lash, super worth all that strength, and the downside from the strength. And then we've got this stuff up here. Whatever. I'm sure the range is not a big deal, because I only want to kill maybe a couple hard targets, because I'm going to be doing so much damage. But let's go to the relay and see how this build works out. Also, I'm not using any defensive mods. That's worth noting. I just went 100%. Okay, yeah. No defensive mods. I'm putting it all on the line. All of it is into damage. The whole thing. Every single mod in this Warframe is for damage purposes. Like, or power enhancing purposes, rather, I suppose. I have done everything that I feel is reasonably possible without using a maxed fucking blind rage to make myself more powerful. So let's see how this works. Because at the point where, like, the mods that I'm using fucking Prime Continuity and Transient Fortitude, which are both, like, crazy high rank mods and stuff. So it'll take quite some time to get here. To this point, like, you need a lot of, like, cores and credits and all kinds of shit to get here. So let's see what happens if I've got double duration and about double strength on these enemies. Because this should be absolutely devastating. And if it's not, that's a real fucking problem. Okay, same enemy setup. Let's do this. Luckily I'm using Physique, so I am at least a little bit harder to kill. And my Nikana has Life Strike in it, so I'm sure that's fine. That lasts 70 seconds. That's actually not bad. Makes so I have to cast it way less. Oh, look. Look at all this damage. It didn't even kill that corrupted Moa. The Moas. The Moas. The Moa. Okay, let's get rid of this guy. Oh, I'm dead. All of these mods into trying to do some actual damage. And I get nothing. I get no crowd control. I get almost no relevant damage. Like, the crowd control I get is a tiny little, like, piss poor stun from my 4. So this is what Saryn is like now. That defensive build, it works, but it works slow as shit. And this offensive build still doesn't do enough fucking damage to kill some fucking enemies. Like, if I'm gonna use these powers in conjunction with each other, they need to fucking go. Like, my damage needs to, like, fucking kick in the, like, hyper turbines and just fucking ramp up insane and just fucking ruin the lives of enemies that are, like, level, like, almost 200. It should be doing tons and tons of damage still. Because whenever you're forcing me to combine these, you're putting me in a huge amount of danger, which means I need defensive mods. And that doesn't mean necessarily that they're, like, super, like, I have to, like, build all defensiveness, and then my powers should just be good. No, I'm still using a bunch of, like, power relevant, like, duration increasing mods. It's just that my damage doesn't fucking go anywhere. Like, Miasma's base duration should be, like, 15 fucking seconds if you want this to scale at all. Because then you'd be doing the Miasma damage for a while. And that would be okay. Like, it'd be slow, but at least you'd get some, like, actual, and you'd end up at a reasonable amount of damage. It would just take a while. So I'm gonna top this video off by playing a frame that can handle this situation. So let's go switch it up. Okay. I keep referring to him every time I talk about this. Is this the correct build? Should be... Oh, that's the Curse Projection one. Nah. I'll use Energy Siphon just because I don't want there to be like any weirdness with them having less armor or whatever. Yep, this seems to be all good. This is a nice little mixed, got some range, got some strength, regular duration, and max efficiency. It's a nice mixed build with some defensive properties because I'm also using Quick Thinking, very good mod. This is a pretty normal build. Dragon Arcana, it does have Life Strike on it, which is what I like to use. And this is everything, the only thing that has changed here is the frame. I'm not even going to switch the elements on my Nikana back to Blast Corrosive because I was using Viral on my Nikana to try and proc it more on these enemies. So like maybe be able to use my 3 and then slash through them and get both of the procs at the same time, but you know what, whatever. Mercury, we're on the relay. Whoop, too high. Alright. Let's show off what you should actually be able to accomplish. No Sonic Core, just my powers, and a melee weapon. Enemies at level 70, which isn't even that much for this character. Oh, forgot the butchers. There we go. Okay. Let's do this. Use my 4. Oop. Man, whenever I combine that radio blind with my 4, it fucking pops off. I need to move in on these enemies and get close. And maybe do some like crazy finishers on these high armor enemies. It's so weird that this actually works. See, the really interesting thing about this is that Excalibur's Exalted Blade works without these waves, because it does devastating damage when you combine it with his 2. Because his 2 is a reliable, good crowd control that also gives you a boost when you're using your other powers. See how easy that was whenever I combine my powers? See how easy that was? And, like, there's a reason it's this powerful. Because it needs to be. Because enemies get way tougher than this. Because level 70 enemies aren't the end. Enemies scale indefinitely. And enemies are often in endless type missions, like, way higher levels than this. Like, often in, like, the 150s to 200 range before you're done fighting them. Like, before that you decide to leave. After you're, like, more than an hour and a half into a survival that's tier 4 or whatever. Like, powers have to go for a while, or else you don't get, like, there are frames that just don't get played at the end game. And now Saryn doesn't have a place. Saryn was being used as a medium, like, low, medium, high, like, shit mob clearer. Like, she was the one that cleared out all the garbage. Like, all of, like, the little butchers. And the Corpus, like, gunner guys with the shotguns and shit. And just the baby enemies. She would hit 4 and they would die. And that was a real, like, fine use. It didn't scale crazy well or anything like that. Didn't do anything too special. But what it definitely did is that it definitely killed those shitty enemies, and it gave all the heavy enemies a light stun. Now, Saryn doesn't even do that. She does nothing. She does nothing. She's not good for anything now. Her powers, when you combine them, don't give you a fucking payoff. And with Excalibur, I'm only combining 2 powers. I'm stancing in, using my blind, sometimes using my 1, and, like... And that's not as complicated as what you need to do with Saryn. Because with Saryn, like, this is a large AoE that I don't have to direct. And that's awesome, and it works really, really good. With Saryn, you have to, like, pop your 1 on an enemy, make sure you're using your 3, that isn't, like, a channel. Like, why is that not, like, a 0.2 energy channel that you just always have on? That doesn't make any fucking sense at all. And then on top of that, like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why. Like, the damage that you get out of it is fucking nothing. Saryn is useless now. Unless you just want to build tanky. And there are better frames for that. There are better frames that can do the tanking thing. Chroma's tanking ability comes with the upside of doing like 4 times damage with everything he uses. So if you're Saryn tanking by using your 2 to regenerate health and you have a bunch of health and armor, that's still not as good or goes as far as even Chroma, and Chroma's not being used. He's not a raid frame. Like, he's awesome solo and I love playing as him, but he's not like a meta used frame. There are a bunch of frames that have a place that aren't really used that much. Like, Valkyrie's not really a raid frame, but she scales crazy hard and she's great for survivals and shit. So she's used there. But you're not bringing Saryn there. You're not bringing Saryn to the raid. There's no reason to do either of those things under any circumstances. So Saryn's place, and she doesn't have crowd control, so she can't go there, like, and be useful. Like Ember can now. Ember can go into the raid now because her 4 combined with Firequake has good crowd control, and you can get rid of these enemies around you while doing some light damage, which comes as a bonus. But there's just no fucking reason to use Saryn now. Because at low levels, you're not spreading your 1 and then using your 3 and hitting these enemies, and when you use your 3, I tested this on some low level shit enemies, if your melee weapon kills them in 1 hit, it doesn't spread your 1. So there's no reason to do it at low levels because your combination doesn't even fucking work because the whole thing breaks down. You don't get to the miasma stage. So that means whenever you run into an actually tough enemy, because you can't spread your 1 between enemies using your 3 to spread throughout this entire group, a tough enemy fucking shows up who's got like a decent level, like let's say like level 30, which is basically nothing, and like the relative scheme of how good a weapon should be to handle enemies at like a decent level. And then you hit 4, but instead you don't do enough damage with your 4 as a base because you're supposed to combine it with your 3 and your 1. But in order to do that, you should be having like trying to sustain your 1 throughout a whole map and chain it between enemies with your 3. But because that doesn't work on shit enemies that are that low of a level on a melee weapon that's actually worth half a fuck, you can't do that. So you look at a fucking tough enemy, you hit 1, and then you have to melee them, and then you hit 4 by standing right in front of them and just shoving your fucking like face into their crotch, and then maybe they'll die in a couple seconds. What the fuck? That's not a reason to use a frame. Like, you should be hit like if you're playing as Saryn and doing all that, you should be doing hundreds of thousands of damage. Hundreds of thousands. It should be devastating. It should be enemy devouring damage. Like, cause you're using so much energy. Like at that using like the 100% energy mark, like just normal fucking like just normal efficiency. Absolutely normal. Not changed at all. Your powers aren't fucking worth anything. They're worth nothing when enemies get any kind of tough. When enemies get even a little hardy, your powers become completely useless. All of them except for Regenerative Molt, which wasn't changed at all. So that's super great, I guess. But whatever, it's changed. At least that skin looks great. That new Saryn skin looks fucking amazing, and I love it. And I wish Saryn's rework was good. But right now, it's not. If you have another build that you'd like me to use, and it's the build that's great with Saryn, and it clears the level 70 setup that I was using no problem, like a normal good frame can do with like pretty relative ease, and like the powers actually matter and help the situation, let me know. I want that build. I want Saryn to be good, but the 2 intuitive builds that I made, they don't do anything for her. Besides the Regenerative Molt, which just keeps me alive pretty much indefinitely, which is great, don't get me wrong, but there are frames that do that way fucking better. And that's not what her kit is as advertised. You're supposed to be like a miasma of death and destruction, and that's just not what's going on. So I'm gonna end the video. Tell me what you think of this awful Saryn rework. If you don't think it's awful, please tell me why. Please tell me what's up with it. Please tell me the use that you found, because I like Saryn and I don't want her to be bad. And right now it's just not fun to play as her because you're not getting anything done. I'll see you tomorrow.